What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here, and I'm joined by another special guest. We have Brianna here to talk Patriots draft. We're going to give you our draft grade for the 2019 Patriots draft class, as well as just our analysis on every pick and talk about the draft class as a whole. Brianna, what's going on?
How are you? I haven't been on in what? It's been like a month, maybe?
Yeah, it's been about a month. I was trying to get on you a little bit sooner, but you've been busy, so it's all
Yeah.
good. So overall, 2019 draft class, this was a big one for the Patriots because a lot of people looked at this draft class as kind of like a transitional year. Tom Brady's coming towards the end. A couple of players Gronk retired. McCourty's thinking about retiring. So this is kind of a big season for the Patriots to kind of nail their draft. What's your overall thoughts on their draft class?
I would give it, I think what I've consistently been saying was a B plus. The punter pick was a little questionable, and I'm not 100% sold on this quarterback that they picked up. I did a little bit of research on him, and you could make the argument that, his coaching at Auburn wasn't great. The team in general wasn't all that great, but out of the quarterbacks that were available, and while this wasn't necessarily a deep quarterback draft class, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on Stidham, but I also really
I'm on the
don't
other
know a
side.
lot about him.
I like Stidham, so I'm on the other side. So we'll have to have an argument once we bring him up. But round number one, we'll start off with the pick that most people like. I think at least like 90%. I haven't heard many people say that they don't like this pick. N'Keal Harry of Arizona State. Now, N'Keal Harry, he's not like a receiver that's going to wow you with speed, or he's not going to wow you with big plays down the field necessarily in the traditional sense of him being open by 10 yards, catching the ball and running for a touchdown. N'Keal Harry is more of your Alshon Jeffrey, more of your Michael Thomas type of receiver. He's a big guy. He goes up, he gets it, he plays physical. And that's something that I think they feel like they missed at the end of last season. And especially now with Rob Gronkowski out and retired, they definitely miss. So N'Keal Harry, they pick first round. It was a little bit surprising, even though the need for the receiver was their biggest by far, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's still surprising that Bill Belichick picks a receiver in round number one.
I love the pick. So I ran a poll on Patriots Fan Girl, and there was only 1% worth of the entire poll saying they didn't like the pick. So whoever that 1% is, whatever. But I think what I kind of expected, I didn't necessarily expect a receiver to go in the first round for them, just because it never happens. So just go with what you know. But I did think in the second round they would move around and trade up higher in the second round. And I really thought it was either going to be Harry or Metcalf because of more or less the same type of receiver, very big bodied, able to go up on 50-50 balls and come down with them. Something that's been said a lot about this pick is that N'Keal Harry doesn't get good separation, which if you're, that big and that dominant up in the air with your hands and with your body, you don't necessarily need to get separation. You just need to be able to come down with the ball. He's not a speed guy like Phil Dorsett or like Edelman that can beat you off the line real quick and then work himself open. He's somebody that can run his route right, and make sure that if Tom decides to throw a deep ball, that he comes down with it. And I think, I can't remember what the exact stat was, but I looked it up the morning after that pick. And I believe in college, he was about 60% on like 50-50
it was a pretty high number. I remember like for 50-50 ball deep balls, but like even people that say like the receiver doesn't get separation, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get separation. And have you ever watched DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, every one of his catches is within like the defender is literally right on him. Michael Thomas doesn't get any separation. That's kind of the mold of these receivers. Like these receivers, and Michael Thomas has been able to thrive because he has an accurate quarterback with Drew Brees. He's also a great route runner, has great timing. He's with Sean Payton. So if N'Keal Harry can kind of look at what Michael Thomas is doing, say, I have Tom Brady, I have Josh McDaniels, then maybe he can have similar success.
Right. And then you pair it with hopefully Hopefully this Demaryius Thomas thing, he comes back from this injury. It's a tough injury to come back from, especially when it's happened more than once on the same guy. If he comes back from this, I don't think he's going to necessarily start the season. But I'm thinking more so like beginning of October, middle of October, he'll be back. And then we obviously don't
So
know.
you're thinking for sure he's going to make the team?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
He's somebody that they've been eyeing for however many years. Josh McDaniels obviously drafted him, so he knows what he can do. Coached him for however long he was in Denver.
Yeah, I think a season or two, and he drafted him, which is even more important, honestly, than coaching him. So, but yeah, Demaryius Thomas is there, and then of course Josh Gordon is supposed to be there.
We'll see.
And of course they have Edelman. Dorsett is around. So honestly, I think their receiver core looks pretty good at this point. I don't really think they need anyone else. I think they have the depth guys as well. Maybe a Barrios can come in and make the team, possibly. One of these guys, Ellington or whoever that they signed, possibly could surprise us in camp. Who knows? But there's definitely competition at this position. And I don't think that the Patriot fans that are complaining about the wide receiver position, I think are just totally misjudging this whole wide receiver position in general.
Which usually is what happens. And the other thing about Harry that I wanted to point out, he's aside from like the speed aspect, he's very much going to fill the role of what Cordell Patterson did last season. He can return punts if he needs to, which would be great because Edelman isn't, as young as he used to be either. I would like for him to shy away from the punt returns, whether that be Harry in there or Barrios or whoever. But that is something like if you need him to be out there, like he has experience doing it. Like, he ran a punt return for a touchdown back last season. So like, it's not like you need to teach him how to do it. He knows what he's doing. And worst case scenario, you just toss him on back. So.
And I think the interesting thing, just the way that they're going to use him, is I think they're going to use him in a similar way to a combination between how they used Josh Gordon and Gronk last year. So I think you're going to see him sometimes like lined up in the slot, like where Gronk would be lined up, or isolated to the side where Gronk would be lined up, possibly. I think that's the type of way they're going to utilize him because they no longer have that middle of the field vertical threat. So with Gronk, so they could utilize him in that way, but we'll have to see. I'm excited for this pick because like you said, and they've never picked a receiver in the first round. So this is exciting stuff for Patriots fans, something new. So in the second round, Jawan Williams, cornerback of Vanderbilt. This is a guy that it seemed like they were targeting even in the late first round. Like a lot of people are connected to the team were saying that Williams was a target for the Patriots at corner. He's definitely kind of this freak of nature, 6'3", almost 6'4", 211 pounds. He's definitely a rare breed at the corner position. Maybe possibly could play a little bit of safety, but I see him more as a corner or just a matchup guy, especially early on. And I was one of the people that said they don't need a corner because I feel like, honestly, they have the best corner depth chart in the league, like team by team. I think they have the best, especially because I'm very high on J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones. Duke Dawson is coming back. Of course, they have Stephon Gilmore. They brought back Jason McCourty. So I didn't really feel like they needed a corner, but obviously Bill Belichick has a plan for this guy.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I didn't think they needed to draft anybody in the secondary. But then I saw that they took this kid and I was like, oh, hell yeah. Let's go. Like, they're just stacked at the corner position. Like, one person goes down, you've got a hell of a good backup right there. Like, it doesn't matter. I love J.C. Jackson. I think he had one of the best rookie seasons we've seen from a Patriot on defense in a long time. And then, like Duke Dawson, he was obviously on IR last year, came back, but never really came back. That I think if anybody's going to have to compete for a spot with Juwan, it's going to be Duke, and they're just going to battle it back and forth. But that being said, they're both versatile players, so if they didn't want to get rid of either of them, you can just move them around, little chess pieces, that's all.
Yeah, my sense is kind of like with all of these players that they really have in the secondary, all of them sort of are corners. Like, if you really think about it, Devin McCourty was a corner. Patrick Chung even plays corner sometimes. And then you have Jason McCourty, who's obviously a corner, but has played safety. The only true safety is really Daron Harmon. Like, he's not really a corner. So they have like a lot of different just matchup guys, and that fits their man coverage scheme that they love. Like, they play more man coverage than anyone in the league. And like you said, that's a good point. Because of their man coverage scheme, they need all this depth, because what happens if Stephon Gilmore gets injured? You know,
Right.
that totally changes their entire defense. So as I was talking about on a lot of these other draft grade shows, was basically like, for the Eagles, for example, they just keep adding defensive linemen because that's their strength. And sometimes teams just keep adding to their strength. In this case, it's the Patriots' corner depth or secondary depth. Anything else on him?
I don't think so. I think this is more of kind of like a wait and see thing. I think he's got all the potential in the world. It just depends on how they want to use him, where they want to put him, and if he ends up down Steven Belichick's neck of the woods eventually come camp. So we'll see.
Okay, I think this is the pick that everybody's excited about, even though he's not a first-round pick, but he already seems like a Patriot fan favorite. Chase Winovich, linebacker, defensive end from Michigan, 3rd round, 77th overall, 6'2", 256. Now, I watched Winovich before the draft because I was watching Rashawn Gary, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, he just kept popping off the screen. Eventually, I had him ranked in the top 10 edge players in the draft. I really liked him as a pass rushing presence. What's your feeling on Chase Winovich?
So this was the most predictable pick of the entire draft. I think it's perfect. The kid's a psycho. Like, he's just an absolute psycho. There was a video, it's on Twitter somewhere. I'm pretty sure I retweeted it yesterday. He was mic'd up during, I can't remember which game it was, but he was just screaming his head off at a lineman saying, block me, please block me. Like, and then he gets back to the sideline and he's just freaking out, and he's got the long, crazy hair, and he's got those beady eyes that just like scream psycho. The kid is going to be a monster. And then you put him back there with Van Noy, Landon Roberts, because he can play linebacker. Everybody's saying he's going to be more of an edge defender, which, like, yeah, sure, I can see that, but his true position is an outside linebacker. So you put him with that already good linebacking core, get him with those guys who are also crazy in their own right, and then match him up with DYs on the edge, and like, he's just going to eat quarterbacks for breakfast. Like, it's going to be ridiculous.
So some people are saying like I agree with you. He's an outside linebacker, but like, he'll probably, I could see him his first season probably being like a 3rd down specialist, like a pass rushing specialist. He could play a little bit in like when they align Van Noy and Hightower on the edge. I could definitely see him playing that sort of role on 1st and 2nd down at times. But I think he's going to be more the pass rushing specialist just to start. But this is kind of like the personality replacement of Gronk, is it not?
So that's what I've seen everybody say, and I don't agree with that, because Gronk was like, he was crazy in a different way. He was like party boy crazy, but like a massive teddy bear, never got in trouble, loved everybody, just made jokes on top of jokes. Winovich just seems like a straight up psycho. Like,
he's like,
just is bananas. Like, I don't even know.
From what I've seen, he's like, he'll do anything for the team. Like, he'll just be like, yes, coach. Yes, coach. He'll just do whatever. Like, even Belichick said, would you shave your head if you were on the Patriots or something? And he said, yeah. So
yeah, why not? I mean, I'm all for it. I thought this was a great pick. I knew it was coming. I had that feeling like this guy just has Patriot just like eluding from him. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it makes perfect sense. I think he's going to be really freaking good. Casario's probably going to make him cut his hair, but that's fine. Don't really think that's going to be all that big of a deal, but yeah, the kid's just crazy. So
he
I
should
think
keep his hair.
I know. I think so too. I think it's a cool look, especially it's that bright blonde, like Clay Matthews type hair, but I doubt they'll let that happen, which is whatever. It's only hair. It grows back.
Yeah. So final thing with him, though, I know a lot of people are going to be in the comments like, oh, he's just like this guy. He's not athletic at all. Like, no, look at his numbers, 4.6, 40-yard dash. He pops off the screen when you watch him. Like, he is a very good athlete. I know the stereotype of a white linebacker is not very good in terms of athleticism, but this guy has it. So that's something that I also love about him, is that they're not just picking a guy that's smart, plays within the system, but he's also a great athlete. So that has potential there in the third round. Another third round pick they had is Damien Harris, running back from Alabama. Initially, it kind of surprised me that they took a running back, but at the same time, the Patriots running backs do get injured quite often. The running back position in general gets injured quite often, and they like to run as many running backs as possible. Plus, I did really like this pick, just the player in general, because Damien Harris was very productive at Alabama, and some would argue he was more productive than the guy that went in the first round.
Right. So I like the pick too. I also was surprised at it at first, and then I was like, okay, well, we did have to use a wide receiver as RB3 last year, so I guess it makes sense. The kid's good. Like, there's no denying that. He is really good. I would agree that you could say that he was better than Josh Jacobs last year. No, I think it's good. I think he's a good guy to have because Burkhead and his concussion issues, you never know what's going to happen with that. And then you've got Sony Michel's knee. He had to miss like 3 or 4 games last season because of it. Obviously, wasn't really that big of a deal because he came back and he was unstoppable towards the end of the season. But it's always good to have that extra running back, especially if he's a rookie, because they tried to do that thing with Mike Gillislee last year and it just blew up in their face. And then they were left with 3. And then obviously Cordell Patterson had to do it. And it was messy for a few games. So no, I like the pick. And everybody is saying that he's like the steal of the draft, which
his value is definitely
with.
there. I mean,
yeah.
And you never know with running backs in the 3rd, 4th round. Like these guys, there's a lot of them over the last couple of years where it's like Alvin Kamara or, Kareem Hunt or these players that just like pop off 3rd round, 4th round picks. And you're like, whoa, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
So Damien Harris could be one of those guys. Ideally, he would make a great complement to Sony Michel. If he does get to that level, it would be unbelievable. But we'll see what happens. And I'm one that wasn't necessarily a fan of Rex Burkhead in terms of getting a lot of carries. I like him as a receiver. So hopefully Harris can kind of take away some of his carries and hopefully he's more productive in that area.
The thing with me about Burkhead is you never know if he's going to decide to hold on to the ball or not when he's a rusher. And for some reason, he just doesn't follow his blocks all the time. He'll just run through a crowd of people, and that's when you always see the fumbles pop out. So I would completely rather him split out and be a receiving back or actual running back. And then you have those 3 guys with Michel and White and now Harris, and then problem solved. Like, you're good.
Don't forget Brandon Bolden.
And Brandon Bolden, the guy's back. Hulk is back. I'm so excited for him.
3rd round, again, Yodny Kajus, I believe I said that right. West Virginia tackle. He's going to be projecting as their swing tackle, so basically their primary backup tackle. I guess. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like at this point in the 3rd round, I think they're just going off whoever's the best player on their board, which like I'm totally cool with. And I'm never going to be not cool with the Patriots picking offensive linemen in the 3rd or 4th round because they really hit on those picks more than often or more than not. So yeah, he has an injury, but I don't really know much about him, to be honest, as a player, but he did seem like a good value in the 3rd round.
So all I know is with their offensive lineman picks this year, they decided to pick the names that are the most impossible to pronounce. They got that kid from Denmark.
I noticed that.
And I don't know how to say his freaking name. It doesn't sound anywhere close to how it's spelled. But when it comes to the offensive lineman at this point, like, just give him to Scar and let him do what he needs to do. Like, they could have been bums in college for all I care. Dante Scarnecchia is going to turn them into pros, and they're going to get the biggest paydays in the entire world, and that's all that really matters. So, but there were a few highlights, just like how I think it was Bleacher Report that was just doing a quick little draft video for each pick. And I was impressed. Like, I hadn't heard of this kid beforehand, but I was impressed. So I think it's a good start. But yeah, I mean, Scar is like the lineman whisperer. So
yeah, as long as he's around, I have confidence in the offensive line. That's for sure. their other pick on the offensive line, they have Froholt. I'm not even going to try his first name.
So I think his first name is pronounced Yilda. I think that's what
Really?
I've heard. Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
Good
but
thing I didn't try that then.
Yeah.
But Froholt from Arkansas, center guard. He's basically going to compete for the Patriots, kind of like guy that does everything on the offensive line as a backup. So Ted Karras is basically that role right now. And you could see him compete with Ted Karras for not only a roster spot, but also like just playing time in general if somebody goes down. I think probably all three of these guys would make it in Karras, Kajus, and Froholt. So I think all those guys are going to make it and then probably be the primary backups on the team because really they lost LeAdrian Waddle, who was kind of an underrated backup. They lost last year. They lost Cameron Fleming, who played a lot of snaps, that season going to the Super Bowl. So they needed the tackle. They needed the guard depth. I like it because offensive line depth is very valuable. Even though they have Scar, we've seen at times that they can be taken advantage of if the wrong guy is in there. So overall, a guy from Arkansas on offensive line, I like it. And Brett Bielema connection is strong there. So what do you think of this pick?
So I like it too. His little reaction video made me cry when they posted his phone call. Oh, it was so cute. He just sat there crying and he was hugging his mom and it was so sweet. He dropped an F-bomb when Bill came on the phone. It was so funny. But no, I think you obviously have to point out the Bielema connection because there's no way they would have picked him if it wasn't for that. Because I think when it comes to late round offensive linemen like that, he was what, the 5th round, 6th round, something like that.
For who?
For Froholt.
Froholt was 4th round.
4th round. Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, still late round pick. Yeah, I don't know. I'm cool with it. Go ahead. Take him. He's got a cool name. He looks like Thor. Go ahead.
All right. 4th round, Jared Stidham from Auburn. I know that you just said you're not a fan of him. I am. I actually had Jared Stidham, believe it or not, pretty closely ranked to Daniel Jones, who went 6th overall.
Oh,
so, yeah. Jared Stidham, I thought that at Auburn, the rumors and the people saying that, the offense was not good, completely correct. All they did was throw wide receiver bubble screens and just say, oh, we have this simple concept, Stidham, go out there and make a play. So for Stidham, he actually came in, I believe, from high school, and he was known as a dual threat quarterback, as a runner and a passer, very, very good. He is athletic, he can run a little bit, but he is a prototypical Patriot style of quarterback in terms of how he looks. He's got the prototypical size. He's got the prototypical arm. He does have a nice arm. A lot of people are saying he throws the prettiest ball in the draft. He definitely is great outside the pocket with his accuracy. That's something I noticed that I really liked. I just like his confidence and his toughness. When I watched him, that's the biggest thing that came across for me. Whenever he's at the line of scrimmage in the huddle, he's a quarterback. He has that confidence. Some guys don't have that confidence. And he's tough. He played through basically every injury there is. He played against the toughest competition in college. I could see him. I think he could have went, if he went out last year, he could have went even higher than the 4th round. So I like that they got him here in the 4th round. And I know a lot of other people are excited. Can you tell me why you're not so excited about this pick?
So I just feel like there was a better use for a quarterback pick than him. I'm not saying he's not good because you have to be good to play in the SEC as a quarterback, obviously, going up against the best defenses in all of college football. You can't just be some scrub off the street. I really would have liked them to take Will Grier. That was my top pick when it came to the quarterback position. He went a little lower than I thought he would go, but he was pick 100, pick 101 or something like that. But
yeah, he went to the Panthers.
I didn't think that they were going to trade up for him or anything like that if he was still available. I also didn't think they were going to use anything above a pick 100 for him. So whatever, that didn't happen. Things happen, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I am excited to see now we've got quarterback wars in training camp because you got Danny Etling and Brian Hoyer now, and I don't think Brian Hoyer is going anywhere because you read all the blogs from this past season and what he did off the field for the team, like he could have very easily been the Patriots MVP locker room wise, because you just need somebody like that in there. I mean, obviously Tom's not going to do it because he's got a million and one other things to worry about. You need somebody that's just going to keep everybody level headed. So it's really, I think it's between him and Etling. I think I don't want to say they're the exact same player, but they come from the same mold. I think they're both have options of being mobile. I think Stidham is more mobile than Etling is, but obviously
I think Etling is more
small.
I think Etling is more straight line fast, like what we saw from him in the preseason. But I think Stidham is definitely better, like from what I've seen. Yeah. I don't think Etling is nearly the passer that Stidham is in terms of just his touch on the ball and his arm strength. So we'll have to see it in camp. But I don't think Stidham is like necessarily the Brady replacement that some people are saying. But I think that he has potential to be a quarterback that can play in the NFL. That's how I feel. I don't think he's for sure going to be a guy that plays, but yeah, I could see him playing for some team, if that's the Patriots or not the Patriots. We don't know.
I'm still on the ship that they're going to get Jake Fromm when he decides to come out of Georgia, and he's going to be the successor, because I love that kid. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football right now. So
I think they'll probably have to get in like the top 10 if they want that.
I know, but I mean, it could be one of those years where Tom tells them like, hey, look, you know what? Last one. And then that's when they decide to do the crazy trade up thing that you've seen all these other teams do.
Yep. Okay. In the 5th round, Byron Court of Maryland, 6'3", 298. Just a guy to add to the depth chart in terms of defensive linemen, especially interior defensive linemen. He's more in the Lawrence Guy kind of mold than he is the Michael Bennett or Dietrich Wise mold. And yeah, just adding to the depth chart. I never hate a defensive line depth pick, because defensive line in today's NFL is absolutely crucial to have that rotation. Just another guy that can compete for a roster spot. I don't think that he's necessarily like confirmed going to be on the team, but he definitely is going to add like some competition. Hopefully he can come through in preseason and play strong. But I do kind of like their defensive line depth chart. I mean, it kind of hurts no Trey Flowers, but they basically got an older version of him and Michael Bennett, who I love Michael Bennett. So he's been a stud for years. I think Mike Pennell is hugely underrated. And then they have Lawrence Guy, who's already underrated. Hopefully Dietrich Wise can take a step up. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think that he's going to make the team? What role do you see him playing?
I think it kind of decides on what's all going to happen with Danny Shelton, because he hasn't signed anywhere yet, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, so if he decides to sign back with the Pats, if they work something out, then I think Calvert could be more of a practice squad guy. Definitely battle it out during preseason training camp. I'm not going to give anybody, a complete lock at this point, because there is kind of this weird like turnaround period right now where you're not really sure who's a lock and who's not. But even if, he gets beat out for a starting spot or even just a 53-man roster spot, like put him on the practice squad. Worst case scenario, you have to call him up. And I mean, you drafted him for a reason. This is my thing when it comes to Patriots fans. Like, I think some of us, I don't want to speak for everybody because I know there are some rational people out there. I think we kind of get lost in the whole, oh, well, we go to a Super Bowl every year, so we need Super Bowl caliber guys every year. Like, you look at the roster, like nobody would say that it's a Super Bowl caliber team when you look at where they were drafted, what their college stats were like, what their stats before the Pats were like. And then they're like, oh, well, why did we draft this guy? Like, he stunk. Why did we draft that guy? Like, things happen. It's how it works. It's the way of the world for the last 20 years. Like, and you need the guys on the practice squad just in case. And you never know. You bring him up, you get him the coaching with the starting offense or with the starting defense or whoever the heck he needs to be with, and he could be a superstar. Like, people just need to like take a step back and just look at the broad picture of how things have gone for the last 19 years that we've had Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and realize that, there's a method to the madness, and 95% of the time it works.
Yeah, and the Patriots are not usually the team with the best 22 players, but they're usually the best team with the best 53 players, which is, again, speaks to their depth of their roster. Jake Bailey, your favorite pick from Stanford, punter. I don't really get the need for punter because I think Ryan Allen has been good. Like, am I the only one that is not seeing this with Ryan Allen? I don't.
Ryan Allen could very well have been a Super Bowl MVP. So I'm not 100% sure if this is
competition
like they did last year with the kid whose name I also can't pronounce. The kid with the goggles. What the heck was his name?
I forgot.
And it was just punter wars in training camp, and I was so excited about it. That was like so I went to almost every single public training camp solely to just cover punter wars. Like, it was the big thing. And I think they did that last year just to get him, motivated to have a season and then re-sign. And now he only re-signed a 1-year deal. So this might be, it might be the same thing. It might be, I heard one of the talking heads on 98.5 say that it could possibly be they have this kid Bailey do kickoffs because his touchback rate on kickoffs in college was like off the charts. It was like 86% or something like that. Yeah. Leave Gostkowski for field goals and then have Ryan Allen punt, which, like, okay,
that's 3 spots for kicker, punter.
3 spots for 2 jobs. Like,
I will say though, Gostkowski has not been as good on kickoffs. I will say that is kind of like an underrated need.
Which is why they kind of brought up that point, which, like, sure, if you look at it that way, it makes sense. But why would you re-sign Gostkowski for, what was it, like 3 years that they just gave him for? And then why would you re-sign Ryan Allen for 1? Like, if you just wanted to take a new punter, just take a new punter and let him go.
Yeah.
Which would have been dumb because, like I said, Super Bowl MVP. Like, when you really think about it, yeah, Julian Edelman was great. He was the reason why, they racked up all those offensive yards, even though they only scored 1 touchdown. But Ryan Allen had, like, the game of his life, making sure that he pinned back the Rams as far back as he could every single time. So I don't know. And trading up for a punter is very Belichick, but very, very, very questionable.
What they said was that they didn't have, like, they had too many picks, so they needed to trade it away. I don't know if that's BS or if that's just, like, I don't know, whatever.
I'm not sure about that one, but whatever. Like, if they want to run, like, a double punt, like, set, that's fine with me. Like, go ahead. Nothing would surprise me anymore.
I'm trying to think. Who's the coach, the Colts coach?
Oh, my God.
Forgot his name. But anyway, bring Picano in to draw it up. Round 7. Last pick, Ken Webster. I think he has virtually no chance of making it as a corner. He is basically Keon Cross in 2019. He is basically 5'10", 4'4", not as impressive in terms of speed as Keon Crossen, but he has, like, the vertical, everything like that, all the measurables to worthy of drafting. So they draft just a guy that they think has the measurables to draft in a project, so to speak. He could make it on special teams possibly, but their special teams is already so strong. And, like, we got to get to the point where, like, Matthew Slater only plays special teams. Brandon Bolden only plays special teams. Brandon King only plays special. Like, they have special teams guys that make the team. Like, I don't know. He's probably not going to make the team, but, I guess worth the pick. Who cares?
Could be another practice squad guy. You never know. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to have, guys down there. I saw somebody, though, it was a beat writer saying that they could get their picks worth out of him, which, I mean, he was a 7th rounder, so take that with a grain of salt. But you never know. Tom Brady was 199. Julian Edelman was a 7th rounder. Like, you never know.
The thing with me is, like, one, I probably would have preferred them to pick, like, a position that possibly the player could have made the team, like tight end, for example.
Yeah.
They could have possibly picked a tight end there, or, like, I don't mind the corner because they've had such success with undrafted corners. So, like, if you feel like this is the best guy that's going to go undrafted that you should pick, then I understand that. So there's different ways of looking at it. But overall, we went over every pick. Or is there any position that you didn't like that they should have addressed that they didn't address? I think there's one that you're going to say.
Yeah, it's very obvious. The tight end position, I don't understand why they didn't do a thing. They signed an undrafted kid out of Texas that I'd never heard of. So, like, that's a start. But they just traded away Jake Hollister.
Yeah.
So,
not surprised by that.
not me, like, either, but, like, it was only for a pick for next year.
Yeah, a 7th if he makes the team, that is.
Yeah. So, I'm not 100% sure what we're doing here when it comes to the tight end thing. I don't know if it's because they know something we don't in terms of maybe Ben Watson, or maybe Gronk has said, hey, maybe this is a little premature, which I don't think that's the case. But like I said, obviously I have no idea.
My guess would be that they're moving away from the tight end position.
So
They're
that's
changing
kind
their
of what
scheme somewhat.
my option number 3 was.
Yeah.
You've got these big receivers now in Harry, Thomas, and hopefully Gordon that can fill that role more or less, while also still being, you know, a receiver, like with the hands and the speed of a receiver, but the big bodies of a tight end. So maybe that's what they're doing. It's
exactly.
The whole
well, think about last time we talked, you kind of ripped Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Travis Kelce can.
What's the difference between a big receiver and a tight end that doesn't block?
Absolutely nothing.
Like, even the tight end they brought in, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who I think he can be decent. He can block. Like, he was actually rated one of the better blockers by Pro Football Focus last year, and he's a decent receiver. So, like, they want the tight end who can block and can catch, and there's just not many of those. Like, unless they got TJ Hawkinson, that's like the only guy. There's maybe one more that they could have picked, but it would have had.
If they kept Dwayne Allen, that problem would have been solved. If you just keep Dwayne Allen as a blocking tight end, and then you bring in all these guys, like, fine. Because Seferian-Jenkins, I agree. I like the move for him. You know, I think he hasn't really been in the best situation to, like, have his coming out party, so to speak.
He was good on the Jets.
Yeah, he was a Patriot killer on the Jets.
Yeah.
So I like the move, and he can block. So that's, but also having one blocking tight end doesn't really fly with me. I liked when they had, you know, Marty and Gronk, and then they had Allen and Gronk. So
it's interesting.
Maybe Marty comes back. Let's just go nuts with this. Maybe Martellus Bennett comes back.
I heard like everybody's trying to get him back, but
I know I want him back so bad. He loves being retired, though. He gets to spend time with his wife and daughter. He gets to smoke all the pot he wants and stuff. He's golden. Like, if he wants to come back and play with his brother, I'm all for it. But, like, whatever, he can
bring him in at the end of training camp. I'm for it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, what's your draft grade for the 2019 Patriots draft?
Overall, I'm gonna say a B+. The only reason why it's not anywhere in the A range is because the trading up for the punter thing just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm still iffy on Stidham.
Okay.
If, you know, he proves me wrong in camp, I'll definitely decide to bump it up to an A in retrospect, but, like, hindsight's 2020. So, but yeah, solid B+. I'm going to give it like an 89. Like, it's just right on the cusp of being an A-, but not 100% there yet.
Yeah, I'll have to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go A-. The only thing that's holding it back from a straight A is they did not even select a tight end, which I hope they would at least select one just to compete. Like, it didn't have to be a first round, second round. Could have been a 4th round, 5th round pick, and I would have been happy and bumped it up to an A just to, like, add some competition. But they got the receiver that I wanted, not necessarily the name. I didn't really care about the name, just the guy they felt, but they got the receiver. They addressed offensive line depth issues. They got a running back that I think was a steal. They got Winovich, who I also think is a steal and is a pass rusher they desperately needed. Juwan Williams is not necessarily a need pick, but a very talented, interesting player. Yes, they added a punter, but I'm willing to be okay with that. And I do like Jarrett Stidham more than you do. So that's where I get the A- from.
That's if they got a tight end, I would have just thrown that all away and said, yep, A+, they're golden. But then I saw the 2 Iowa boys go right away, and I'm like, crap, this isn't going to end well. And then Irv Smith was still there, and they didn't pick him, and that's who I really wanted after you saw Hawkinson.
Surprising that the Vikings took him of all teams.
So that's another thing that I'm thinking, because they're trying to shop around Rudolph. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're
Because
clearing
like
space just for like a 1-year rental. I mean, I don't know.
I did the Vikings draft grade analysis, and a lot of people were commenting about that. Just basically like, because they have 2 tight ends now. Rudolph's pretty good. Like he's been to the Pro Bowl like a couple times.
Yeah.
So, but he's not like a blocker necessarily. Like he has the frame and the body to like physically block people, but he's not like utilized in that way in their offense. So it's interesting because Irv Smith Jr. is not a blocker. So
Right.
I don't know, like they don't really have a traditional blocking tight end, receiving tight end. So what's the use of having both of them? I don't know.
I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised come like maybe June or July if you see the rumor mill start to turn a little more about Rudolph to the Pats. And, I mean, I'm all for it. I think he's great. I pick him in fantasy every year because he just racks up the numbers.
Touchdown machine.
So I'd be very cool with that.
All right. Well, that's it for our draft grade for the Patriots 2019. This was a lot longer than most of the shows, but it just seems like whenever I have a guest on, the conversation goes crazy. Tell them where you're at.
All right. So BSP_13, personal Twitter, funny Twitter. I cover every single Boston sport possible on there. Usually it's mainly football, but right now we've got playoffs going on, so I'm just all in on Bruins. And then Patriots,
I don't know. I think they're going to lose.
Stop. I don't want they stress me out. I don't want to talk about it. Patriots FGSN is my work account. That's where all the Patriots things happen. It's more of like the stats and analytical portion of it. I mix in some funny jokes, but they're more appropriately funny than dropping F-bombs all over the place like my personal Twitter. So if you're into that. And yeah, same thing for Instagram. And I'll have some more cool stuff on my work pages once football season gets closer and closer. But for now, it's kind of just BSing through the off season until July, which can't come soon enough. But yeah, and that's me.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the channel for more. We'll see you. Peace.
Bye.